at the very early stage already that each member or certain members in the crew, they were going to form, you know, some sort of collaborations, because that's always been our path and our journey since the time that we decided to come together. Even prior to P.O.C, we were busy with other projects, but we never knew to the extent which it was going to grow or where it was actually going to lead us to as well. And I think as the group evolved over the years as well, and also making attempts to become a little bit more aware and conscious about what it is that we are dealing with as well. You know, I think that nature kind of took its course as well, and all the members in the crew, you know, we all have our own sort of, we all have our own characteristics, and we all have our own taste in music and how we perceive the world as well. So I think it's also just natural for us to kind of venture off and do all these different initiatives as well. But it's kind of all in the same spirit, I would say. And that, I think that's the energy and that's the spirit, and that was the motivator to bring us together at this point in time and also at this age as well. We are deeply entrenched in hip-hop culture. We are regarded as being the first generation of hip-hop heads, so to say. For me personally, I started out as a little mobile DJ. I became a part of a b-boy / breakdance crew. So we were all over the streets of Cape Town City, on the trains, battling each other on the parade and so forth, you know, all over Mitchell's Plain and Ramone coming from Bishop Lavis and those areas. So we were kind of scattered across the Cape Flats, if you want to call it that, through a matinee club that we attended. I saw Shaheen perform on stage, and he was this really phenomenal battle MC, and he would be battling everybody and just dropping these hectic lyrics out there. A mutual friend of ours kind of introduced us at that point in time, and I heard that his dad's got a recording studio, and me being the guy out on the streets, I was like, you know, we need to go in there and make some platinum albums and, you know, that type of vibe. But yeah, that's kind of my take.
Because my dad was a musician, so he traveled all over the country, and there we stints where we stayed with my dad as well. So the pen and the pad and the rhymes was basically what comforted me. And so when I was living outside of Cape Town, that was the one thing that I did when I moved back to Cape Town. I heard about this guy who could actually scratch from a friend, like, nah, I don't believe you. And then I visited his house and I was like, okay, now I'm gonna catch you out. And he could scratch on the turntable. Yeah, and so essentially when we came together, it was really just we were very blessed that creatively we clicked.
First and foremost, we see ourselves as a hip-hop crew or hip-hop entity. Although the social and the conscious and / political messages that resonated, or at least made the loudest noise though. And in terms of our observations, in terms of what happened in the past and now as well, you know, anything that affects human beings or communities, I think that's always going to be relevant, and us being very opinionated in terms of our takes just in our own personal, if you want to call it our personal space and realm as well. I think that's always going to have some sort of impact as well. So if things change, say for the best, and the president say every single citizen is going to get blank checks tomorrow, we'll probably be rhyming about that and celebrating that, you know.
In the 80s, the youth took the lead, and the older generation who were on board would be part of it or fall back. And I feel for me, I'll do exactly the same. For me, it's just really brilliant to see that they, at this point at least, they're not allowing themselves to be co-opted. I think young people just need that spark, something to motivate them. I'd like to think.
Johannesburg has definitely got the upper hand in terms of, if you want to call it, the business links, because we know that the core of business and television and all the necessary channels that you need to tap into, if you want to call it on a grand scale, exist in Johannesburg. So, you know, they are obviously taking advantage of the opportunities that exist over there as well. In Cape Town, I think just in terms of the mentality on one level, we are still very caught up in being really deep and creative with how we approach things. And sometimes on a commercial platform, it doesn't really sit well, or it's not easy to digest. So you kind of have to create these little pockets or these little movements to be able to accept and really appreciate and support that as well. So I would say that is probably some of the major things that we can take note of as well. But I mean, overall, for me personally, I think I'm extremely optimistic about the scene and the culture as well, because people are more conscious, people are more aware. Although we do have all the negative aspects that do exist, but we have so many people around the country really putting in the work from the grassroots right through to the commercial realm. You know, they're putting in the time and energy to succeed, in other words. Yeah.